February is Black History Month. Black History Month is an annual observance originating in the United States. It has received official recognition from governments in the United States and Canada, and most recently has been observed in Ireland, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdoms. We owe the celebration of Black History Month and most importantly, the study of Black history to Dr. Carter G. Woodson. He attended high school at the age of 20, graduated within 2 years, and later went to earn his PhD from Harvard University. The scholar disputed in his studies that history books largely ignored the Black American population, and when Blacks did figure into the picture, it was genuinely in ways that reflect the inferior social position they were in, as they were assigned at that time. In 1926, he launched the Negro Week History Week as an innovative to bring national attention to the contribution of Black people throughout American history. Woodson chose the second week of February for the Negro History Week because it marks the birthdays of two men who greatly influenced the Black American population, Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. During the early 1970s, the name of the celebration was changed to Black History Week and later expanded to Black History Month in 1976. Our theme for this year is justice, equality, and unity. Throughout the years, Black women have led the way in these areas. And at this time, we will share with you three inspirational women who are working hard to achieve justice, equality, and unity.
Tarana Burke is an American activist from the Bronx, New York, who started the Me Too movement. She grew up in a low-income working-class family in a housing project and was raped and sexually assaulted both as a child and a teenager. In 2006, she started using Me Too to help other women with similar experiences to stand up for themselves. In her biography, Miss Burke states that these experiences inspired her to work to improve the lives of girls who undergo extreme hardships. In 2017, Time named Miss Burke among a group of other prominent activist women, referred to as the Silence Breakers, as the Time Person of the Year.
Yara Shahidi is an American actress, model, and activist. She gained recognition for her starring role as the oldest daughter, Zoe Johnson, on the sitcom Blackish and its spin-off series Grownish. She has used her Hollywood spotlight to promote youth voter engagement, education equality, and racial justice to millions of fans. Since founding the Youth Voter Engagement Initiative, We Vote Next in 2018, Ms. Shahidi has also partnered with the Citizen Verizon Assembly, an initiative to facilitate conversations about education inequality and connect students around the country with digital learning resources. Her activism was noticed by former First Lady Michelle Obama, who wrote her a letter of recommendation to Harvard University. Beginning in 2018, Ms. Shahidi began college at Harvard University and is majoring in interdisciplinary sociology and African American studies.
Amanda Gorman is an American poet and activist. Her work focuses on the issues of oppression, feminism, race, and marginalism, as well as the Africa diaspora. Ms. Gorman was the first person to be named National Youth Poet Laureate. In 2015, she published the poetry book, The One for Whom Food is Not Enough. At the inauguration of Joe Biden, Ms. Gorman read her poem, The Hill We Climb. She's the youngest poet to read at a presidential inauguration in U.S. history. Here's an excerpt from her poem where she writes about unity. But that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union with purpose to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes, not to what stands between us, but stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. Gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy waters. You know I gotta make up mind. And I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. And I know what's around the bend might be hard to face, 'cause I'm alone. And I just might fail, but Lord knows I'll try. Shine stars fill up the sky. Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. I hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. I go to prepare a place for you.
Our speaker today is Stephanie Sparrow Owens, a LOTA from the class of 2000. Stephanie serves as the Director of Students and Community Engagement, Reach Higher at Common App. In that role, she leads former First Lady Michelle Obama's initiative to increase diversity across and equity. In that role, she leads First Lady Michelle Obama's initiative to increase diversity across and equity in higher education for first-generation, low-income, and minority students. Higher Reach was started by Ms. Obama during her time in the White House to inspire high school students to go to and complete college. The organization works to help young people help realize their college potential and gives them the tools to support their efforts to graduate and earn a degree or industry recognized certification. Prior to joining Reach Higher, Stephanie served in multiple roles at the United States Department of Education, the Alliance for Excellent Education, the School District of Philadelphia, and various political campaigns. She is a regular contributor to Forbes.com and a co-host to the education podcast Swamped ED. Stephanie earned her bachelor's degree from University of Maryland, College Park, and her master's degree from University of Pennsylvania.
Good morning to the ladies of the Academy of the Holy Cross. Thanks to the Onyx Club for having me and inviting me to speak today. It really is my pleasure to join you all, even if remotely. When I graduated from Holy Cross 20 years ago, taking classes or going to work via Zoom was something we never would have even imagined. Zoom didn't exist. I miss getting dressed, though, every morning to work outside of my house. I miss my colleagues and my work family, and I miss the normalcy of life. I was excited to celebrate my 20-year class reunion this year. And I miss all those people who I wanted to see. It's strange how 20 years can just fly by, but I can still remember the taste of the cafeteria food, most of the cheers we did on the sidelines at basketball games, and I still remember walking really slowly on the marble floors of the National Shrine at graduation, praying that I would not fall in front of everyone. It might not actually feel like yesterday, but it definitely doesn't feel like 20 years ago. And in the course of history, 20 years really isn't all that long anyway. But as we've all experienced over this past year, life can change in an instant. So I want to share with you all the importance of knowing your history. Last year, a week before we all had to stay home, my husband and I visited Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. It's the site of the end of the Civil War. My husband is a true Civil War aficionado. I've known that since our very first date. And over the course of our relationship, we visited a lot of battlegrounds. Most notably was our first visit to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which is only about an hour or so from Holy Cross. And during that first visit, it hit me like a ton of bricks how much history is right in all of our backyards, literally right outside of your doors. It is likely that wherever you are right now, wherever you're sitting and watching this video, soldiers of the Union or the Confederate side of the armies marched, slept, and ate nearby. Some of them may have even fought. My grandparents met at Howard University, 2 generations past slavery. Howard was founded as a historically Black university in 1867 by Union General Oliver Otis Howard for the purpose of educating Black students, especially the newly freed slaves. This was a very big deal. 2 years earlier, it was illegal to teach a slave to read. And one of the first things that former slaves wanted to do when they got their freedom was to get an education, because they knew, as you all know, that knowledge is power. And that education at Howard has led to a remarkable lineage of history makers, scholars, artists, a Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall, a groundbreaking actress, Phylicia Rashad, my favorite author, Toni Morrison, and Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, and even a groundbreaking vice president, Kamala Harris. And most importantly to me, my mom. And just a few miles north of Howard is Fort Stevens, the site of the only official battle fought inside of the district. It's about 1.5 miles from St. John's High School, for reference. At the end of that battle, the Union held its position, and the rebel forces had to bury their dead soldiers at a graveyard at a church in Silver Spring. This is a picture of the Confederate monument that stood in the churchyard until this past summer. And this is a photo of me as a Girl Scout at the parish elementary school of that very church. I passed that marker nearly every day of my young life, and even now, I drive past it at least once a week when I visit my family who are in my quarantine bubble. And yet, I had to meet my husband, visit Gettysburg and Appomattox and other battlegrounds to fully understand the history that was right under my nose. I tell you this story because I implore all of you to go beyond your classes and your textbooks. You all have amazing, amazing teachers at Holy Cross. If you don't realize that now, I promise that you will the minute you get to college and into the real world. But high school just can't teach you everything that you need to know. There simply just isn't enough time to do all of that. Some of it you're going to have to do yourself. You're going to have to ask yourself some really hard, uncomfortable questions, like what is true justice? What does that look like? What does that really, really look like? What is the difference between equality and equity? And as young Christian women, why is it important for us to truly fight for and believe in both? How do we work as one Holy Cross sisterhood to foster unity, even while we disagree on some of the points that will get us there? We must know our history so that we can learn from it, repeat the good things, improve on the things that didn't go so well, and question how to make better the rest of it. Listen, ladies, I know that we are not all going to agree on a whole host of things. We are a nation and a community that is more polarized now than it has been in decades. Maybe we've never actually been as united as we all once thought we were. But we are not so broken that we can't fix it, or at least work on making it better. Some of you might be able to trace your heritage back to some of those soldiers who fought in the Civil War. And some of you, like myself, can trace my heritage back to slaves from that time. And yeah, some of you guys might be able to trace your history back to slave owners. But a lot of you can trace your ancestors' arrival to these shores through Ellis Island or other ports of entry like an airport or a border crossing. And hopefully there are a few of you who can actually trace your ancestors back to those who are indigenous to this land itself. But no matter how you got here, and no matter how you were born, no matter what your family looks like, we are all inextricably intertwined. Our history is linked, and Black history is American history. It is all of our history. So learn your history, grow from your history, question the things that you think you know. Again, question the things that you think you know. Ask really, really hard questions and truly listen when you learn those answers. As women of courage, compassion, and scholarship, find your purpose on this earth. Challenge yourself, and please get out of your comfort zone. I pray that all of you experience great joy in 2021 and that you and your families have good health that we will never, ever again take for granted. And I hope that all of you continue to build lifelong friendships, much like I have with some of the faces you've seen in this presentation today, for the rest of the school year and even for the rest of your lives. Have a wonderful rest of the assembly. Thank you so much for having me. It really is a pleasure. God bless.
He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the itty bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole 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 world in his hands.